Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to East Dundee's regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, dated Monday, December 18th, 2023. We've got 6 o'clock. Catherine, you take the roll.
Trustee Mahoney?
Here.
Trustee Coonsey?
Present.
Trustee Britton?
Here.
Trustee Saviano?
Here.
Trustee Schreiber?
Here.
Trustee Sauter?
Here.
And President Lineham.
Here. And if you'll all rise with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, that will take us to our public comment section. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the board on an agenda or a non-agenda item?
Dave,
Oh, wait.
Person?
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Sorry.
I can't read the last name. Dave Ekurid?
Urso?
Oh, yeah.
That's me.
Okay.
I'd like to...
Richard, can you grab the podium for us? Thank you.
Oh, come on, are you serious? Gotta get up here. Yeah.
Where's your 15 minutes of fame?
Okay, speed, start the line. Yeah, I'd like to speak about the Public Works Department.
Okay.
I recently had a tree pulled down in my yard. It was a village tree. Davy Tree came out to do it, and I thought, oh, great, I get a professional tree outfit to pull the tree down. And they destroyed my yard. Branches came down, dug big chunks of sod out of my grass, and I sent Davy Tree a couple of emails and videos and pictures, and I never was responded to. I was really disappointed because I was hoping that, you know, I'd get it, my yard would look nice when it was done, and I try to take care of my yard, and was really disappointed in the outcome of the yard and the lack of response. Okay. So I don't know why that we have a village department that can do these kinds of things. It was a big tree, but I know we've got equipment that can take trees down, and we're subbing these things out to subcontractors when our guys can do it themselves.
Yeah.
And another question, I don't understand why. If we got guys that can do it, why do we sub that stuff out?
Yeah. Well, with that one, I know specifically there's a real skill involved in taking a tree down that size, so our guys really aren't equipped from a training standpoint. We have some equipment that can get us there, almost all of it, but there's a real art to that. So for that type of task being subbed out, I can understand it. But we'll get a hold of Davey for you and take a look and find out what we can do about that.
At this point, I don't want anybody to touch I'll fix it myself.
Okay.
Because I don't think they'll do, if they did that kind of job taking the tree down,
Well,
what are they gonna do to fix it? Throw some dirt
they're
and
not a
some
lawn
seed down?
service either, so who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, another question I've got is with leaf pickup.
Okay.
I know we subbed that out, right, which I understand,
Yeah, it's part of the
part of
refuse,
the garbage.
pickup,
Yeah.
right.
The guys that pick up the leaves, the first time we did it on the first day, the guy was meticulous, you know, he went back and forth, went over. The next 3 times, the guy, like, he was in a race, he just drove around the neighborhood, picked up a pile here or there that he thought. I was standing right next to him, and he went by, he just kind of waved and went right by my house. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what can be done about that, but
Well, we'll definitely mention it to Flood. They're the
All right.
ones who do it for us, and so far we've had real good luck with that service. You know, it's been a real popular service that we've included with the garbage pickup. So we can touch base with Flood Brothers and
yeah,
make
no,
sure
I like the service, but I
Yeah.
just don't like the service of the service.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, cover the sign so I don't have to go up. Cover the sign so I don't have to go up.
Cover the sign.
That's the part of the sign.
Oh, Kevin, you like to talk.
All right, I will.
Come on up here, Kevin. You're not shy.
I have to be called, correct?
No. Kevin Matter?
Yeah.
Oh, check.
Dave covered the other issues I had, and the only other issue I have is the new no parking signs. I mean, I don't get why they were posted. When you come into the subdivision, it already says no parking after 2-inch snowfall, and I don't want one in my yard. That's the first thing I'll tell you. And I thank Mr. Coonsey for responding to my email, but I don't see the purpose of it. They're confusing. The ones when you come in the subdivision, it says after a 2-inch snowfall. The ones on my block, they say you can't park on the street from December until March. So what happens during Super Bowl? What happens during Christmas?
Right, right.
You know, I don't see what we gained.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Kevin, that one's confusing for me too. I didn't really catch
Well,
the
that's-
logic behind it, but
Okay, we usually don't comment during public, so we
Right.
we can get back to you. But for this issue specifically, there was a measuring of the roads in town to determine width and whether or not an emergency vehicle could fit down if there was parking on both sides. And that's what the decision was made based off of.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
My issue is you warn the people when they come into the subdivision with a sign already.
Right.
So why are we putting multiple signs in the same block? And there's some blocks where there's 2 signs, there's some
Okay.
blocks where there's 4 signs.
So it's more the number of signs?
It just seems, it just seems like overkill to me.
Okay.
My second issue is, are we still gonna subcontract out like the water main breaks, the plowing in the business section? I mean, I don't know why we're not fixing our own water main breaks. I've lived here for 20 years. The guys used to fix them all the time. Now, I know when your water main break right by your house, I saw the guys out fixing it again. I'm like, great, they're not gonna subcontract anything out anymore. I just don't understand why we subcontract out so much work. If the guys don't wanna do the work, that's fine. Or if they can't, that's fine.
yeah.
But they fixed the water mains here for almost 20 years. And now we subcontract them out. It cannot be cheaper to subcontract it out than to have our guys do it.
No, I wouldn't think so, but there are aspects like the one that happened near my home, right next door. That one was an oddball one. It required a fairly large cross-section of main to be replaced that is, actually, it's a task that's a little bit more involved than just mending a crack.
Okay.
Putting a sleeve on it and then refilling it. So with that, there's either, it could be a number of different items. It could be expertise, it could be equipment, it could be timing, a lot of things that'll come into play that require us to sub some of that stuff out. But your point is well taken, so we'll make sure that we discuss that. So as a policy, I don't know that we're not just subbing this stuff out, because we do have the equipment and we do have the manpower to do it. So,
Okay.
but there are instances where we have to get some extra help.
Sounds good. Last thing? Congratulations. Nice job. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. If we could get a motion to allow Trustee Triber to participate over the phone tonight?
So moved. Second?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter.
Yes. Great. Okay, that'll take us to our consent agenda, and this is a whopper, so I don't think we really have to read through all this. Just, are there any items on the consent agenda anybody would like to remove or question?
No.
No?
All right. I will
Okay.
move to approve the consent agenda, items A through L as listed in the packet.
Second.
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter.
Yes.
All right, well, that'll take us to our regular agenda items. The first one is the swearing in of Deputy Police Chief Andrew Ritter. Chief, the floor is yours.
Deputy Chief Ritter began his law enforcement career with the East Dundee Police Department in October of 2009. Since then, he has risen through the ranks quickly, becoming a sergeant in September of 2013. His quick rise can be attributed to his diligence, leadership ability, and overall professionalism. Deputy Chief Ritter's experience includes serving as a patrol officer, range officer, rescue task force instructor, active shooter response instructor, field training program supervisor, and patrol sergeant. He has previously served as Vice President of the Metropolitan Alliance of Police, EDPD Chapter Number 453. He's also served as the East Dundee Police Pension Board President. Deputy Chief Ritter assumed additional projects and responsibilities during periods of leadership transition, giving him a vital experience to take on this role. He has prepared, implemented, and has had oversight of administrative policies, procedures, and operations. He has developed and established department projects that have contributed to strategic and long-term plans, and he has directed and coordinated police resources to ensure effective operations during critical incidents. As Deputy Chief, he brings a good understanding of the broad leadership role necessary for management operations. Deputy Chief Ritter holds a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from the University of Iowa. He has completed FBI LEDA's Trilogy Leadership Series. He is also a graduate of Northwestern University Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command. He maintains professional affiliations with the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association, International Public Safety Association, and the Illinois Tactical Officers Association. I came to East Dundee as the Deputy Chief via Chief Kruger back in January, and I knew that we had an internal candidate for this position, and the internal candidate was Andy. So I came into the position wondering how that relationship would play out initially. And I gotta say, Andy never let his personal ambition or his personal goals, never put those ahead of the department and what our mission was. So for that, what I quickly learned is that he has the leadership ability for this position. The U.S. Army uses an acronym for leadership, and I'm just bringing it up because I feel like he embodies all 7 of them. So it's LDRSHIP. L is loyalty, D is duty, R is respect, S is selfless service, honor is integrity. I'm sorry, H is honor, I is integrity, and P is personal courage. And that's why I think Andy's going to be a great deputy chief for the East Dundee Police Department and for the village. So it's my privilege to announce Deputy Chief Ritter.
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of East Dundee,
and the ordinances of the Village of East Dundee,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Deputy Chief of Police
of the office of Deputy Chief of Police
for the Village of East Dundee
for the Village of East
to
Dundee
the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Are you sure?
Now it's official.
Yeah.
All right, that takes us to our next item, which is the swearing in of Sergeant Jessica Marinos.
Sergeant Marinos, where's she at? Started her law enforcement career in 2008 when she was hired as a community service officer with the College of Lake County Police Department. In 2012, she graduated with her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from North Park University. She joined the East Dundee Police Department as a patrol officer in 2013. She then completed her basic law enforcement training at the University of Illinois' Police Training Institute in Champaign-Urbana. Sergeant Marinos was promoted to detective in 2018. She was also assigned to the Kane County Major Crimes Task Force at this time. She successfully investigated numerous high-profile cases in these assignments. She was promoted to acting sergeant in October of 2023. Sergeant Marinos has achieved certifications as a juvenile officer, crisis intervention officer, field training officer, elderly services officer, taser instructor, child car seat technician, and 40-hour lead homicide investigator. She is also heavily involved in many community events and charities such as Special Olympics of Illinois, vice president of the Dundee Township Shop with a Cop organization, Toys for Tots, and she is a member of the National Night Out Committee. I came in as a former commander of investigations, so when I learned that I would be supervising her directly in my role as deputy chief, I was thankful because I learned that she was very helpful in training me on the systems that I needed to learn to be effective in my job here as deputy chief. So again, thank you very much, Jessica, for your help with that. You were one of my many trainers. Finally, it's my privilege to announce Jessica Marinos as police sergeant.
Jessica Marinos. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
That I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of East Dundee,
and the ordinances of the Village of East Dundee,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of police sergeant
of the office of police sergeant
for the Village of East Dundee
for the Village of East
to
Dundee
the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I think you're going to see two great things out of these two.
Thank you, Chief. This is going to take us into the rest of our agenda items, so if anybody would like to take off, offend us in any way, but
Go celebrate.
you don't have to leave, I'm just letting everybody know.
But you are, yeah, we'll give them a few minutes. Oh, you're fine. I thought my head wasn't in those. Oh, no. Totally, okay. Not the one side. Okay, good. Like. See, this is more the size I'm used to. Twice a year we have. Yep. Pinned out the herd. I think there are a couple people in the hallway that are going to try to fight their way in now.
All right, now we can continue then. The next item up will be a riverfront master plan discussion. Is this with Hitchcock? Yep. It is, so, Phil.
Good evening. I'll just take a moment to welcome back Lacey Lawrence with Hitchcock Design Group to spend a few minutes to give us a project update. a little overview of some of the feedback that was received during the open house and the subsequent online survey. And then what we'll also be looking for is a little feedback or input from you this evening on what will be some of our priorities and initiatives going forward, more short term. We recognize that long term there'll be property acquisition and property development over time, but for right now we've got a couple ideas that we think might be some initiatives short term for the riverfront, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So Lacey, do you want to welcome back, Lacey?
Thank you. All right.
Just return. Oops, sorry. Guess we could do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Page down. Yeah, we'll just do the page up and down.
All right, brief agenda. So I think the last time I was here, we reviewed outcomes of Analyze and the Connect phase and kind of briefly discussed the framework for the Envision phase. And so now we've kind of refined the framework into a concept plan. We presented that to the community at an open house. We also had an online survey available that had the same exact questions, getting feedback from the community on the master plan. And then now we're starting into the prioritize. So once we confirm and get your feedback on the overall plan, is to develop an action plan for the next 5 years, kind of focusing again, as I said, on the kind of early couple years, knowing that obviously the master plan, in order to implement the entire vision, would probably progress longer than 5 years, but we're trying to really focus on the next 5 years and things that you can do to set yourself up for those future more long-range projects. All right, so just a quick refresh of the planning area. You know, we're focusing mainly along the river, but our planning area kind of grows into downtown a little bit further beyond the river, mainly because we want to also connect the riverfront to other destinations within the community, like downtown, village, and other key destinations like the bike trail. And so, but most of the improvements are primarily focused along the riverfront itself. Quick existing conditions, so I'll go through Analyze and Connect really quickly. So we assessed the existing conditions of the site. We did walk the site and evaluated those for the current condition, demographics, natural resources, public infrastructure, permitting constraints, as well as other local planning documents, local and regional planning documents, as well as the traffic study that we were provided from KOLA that's in progress, to kind of really understand the site context and the opportunities and the constraints. From there, we had, again, an online survey as well as an open house, and we also did stakeholder focus groups. There were small, more one-on-one discussions with the focus group to understand, you know, how people feel about the riverfront today and what they feel are some of the opportunities for the future. And so just a quick snapshot of some of those comments. East Dundee feels like the river is very important to their identity and would love to see some future enhancements to that. Just some other key findings. So I have this one because it's hard to kind of read. So the highlight of the feedback from the online survey, the most highest response rate was 82% of respondents say they would like to preserve or protect the river's ecosystem. 81% of residents would like to see more opportunities for things to do. 78% would like to see additional connections down to the riverfront and to downtown, and 77% to improve the image of the area. When asked about possible improvements, the highest, as you can see up there, is more native landscaping / shoreline restoration. The second was just landscape beautification, because they're not necessarily in order. And then the second was seeding at 66%. 65% they'd like to see better river bank access, and then 53% better river water access. 61% would like to see more invasive non-native vegetation removal, and 55% would like to see public restrooms. And then there's a bunch of other write-in comments. We gave people an opportunity to either pick or write in some additional comments. And so we asked also if we improved the riverfront at the village, how likely are you to use it? Most respondents said very likely to somewhat likely. And if the village invests in that riverfront area, would you support allocating finances or resources? And most respondents said very likely or somewhat likely. And then this is after we showed the master plan. So I will kind of skip over to the plan and then come back to here so you can see what people voted for as one of their most favorite amenities. But I also wanted to touch base quickly on the stakeholder interviews because we did talk about that. And that feedback from that group, again, it was more of a one-on-one discussion from other community agencies like Friends of the Fox. And so their feedback reflected what was in the online survey as well, saying they'd like to see improved accessibility, parking, river water quality, safety for pedestrians, bring people to the riverfront, naturalize as much as possible, and create an identity, as well as pedestrian river crossing south of 72. All right, I'm going to scroll down to Envision. So this was the framework plan that I presented at the last meeting that kind of highlighted what the key overall objectives were for the plan. And so then we used this in order to develop the actual conceptual plan that was presented to the community, the open house and the online. So I'll scroll down to that. So we broke up the planning area into sections. So the north section is Water Street, and then Water Street North, and we'll do Water Street South, and then Triangle Park. And then we'll go south, Main, and that'll be Hager property. So here at the north of Water Street, this is where we start transitioning into Carpentersville, kind of up by G. And so the intent of this section is to try to reduce maybe the overall width of Water Street in this segment, as well as providing traffic calming opportunities like raised bumps or signalized pedestrian crossings in order to provide safe crossing from the residential area over to the riverfront area. And with doing so, we would also match the overall width of the trail that's coming from Carpentersville up at G. So it'd be like a 6-foot wide walking path with some opportunities for seating, as well as native restoration and enhancement of the shoreline. So this section is mainly just a walking trail, seating opportunities, and pedestrian safety, like vehicular calming measures. Once we get by the pedestrian bridge and further south, we get a little bit more of land area in order to do some additional enhancements. On I and north, this road is where we propose to bring like an on-street bike lane from the Fox River Trail that would then connect with the riverfront here. So you would come off the trail there, go on north, and then connect here right where the pedestrian bridge is. And then you could go either north or south on the riverfront trail. And then we get down to Williams-Bartles Park, or Triangle Park. So this is kind of the bridge between Water Street North and Water Street South. And so here we have an opportunity where we are proposing rerouting circulation on Water Street to go around the park. So instead of it going through, I don't think I can point, can I? No. So instead of, you can see where K and I and J, so the Water Street typically goes through there now, but in this concept plan we would reroute it around in order to create some like traffic calming opportunities, and then we'd help link the park to the waterfront area. So we could have a trail that goes down closer to the water. F would be like some limestone outcroppings and fishing access, some wayfinding signage, identification, maybe with like a little wall within park name, some pavilion spaces, as well as enhancing the playground with more natural native play. And again, shoreline restoration and potentially, some swing benches, more of a place to relax with your family, be able to sit with a larger group and watch the river and wildlife. And then further south, South Water Street, this is where we propose a festival street. So south of Hill till we get to Main Street. And again, the main reason we wanted to try to do this is to try to restrict the overall lane width of Water Street here. Because given the KOLA traffic report, they noted that most vehicular traffic is coming down Barrington and then going north on Water Street. And so we wanted to maintain that 12-foot lane width in order to facilitate larger vehicles making that pass, that traffic route. South, however, we could restrict the lanes a little bit further to make it more of like a festival street where we'd have opportunities for on-street parking, maybe pavers of some sort that could also maybe use for festivals or farmers markets or other events that you could also have outdoor dining on and close down from time to time if you wanted to do some special events on this section of the street. Because we want to encourage less vehicular traffic given this intersection can be a little bit challenging with turning onto the larger building here. So just trying to reclaim some space for more pedestrian areas here.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
did this include closing water right there from 72 north?
It's not closing, no. So it remained open. We're just changing the materials of the street, narrowing the lanes from 12 down to 10, and then adding a parking lane to it. So it kind of looks more like if you've been downtown Batavia, where it's more a pedestrian-oriented street, where we're going to try to limit that as a main thoroughfare for traffic going north.
And then the same dimensions for the north part of the water, correct?
North of Water would be 12-foot lanes.
12 foot.
Yep, so here we'd narrow it down to 10, just in this section where the Festival Street is. So we could reclaim some width in order to gain on-street parking.
I'm sure you know, we just made Water Street a truck lane. Is 12 foot enough for a truck route?
Well, the truck route will be on Barrington from Water to 68. So
Right, but also
Which is what
on
it should be.
But
water
north.
from Barrington to
Yep.
Carpentersville, right? So is that's where we're saying we're going to reduce to 12-foot lanes. I'm just wondering if that would be sufficient. You're saying yes. So I'm thinking yes.
Yeah.
We've got a
said that
nod
there.
from behind.
12 would be the minimum width you'd want to go for a truck lane. And so 10 we'd probably want to not put trucks on.
No, we don't.
Right, we don't want trucks down there.
Yeah.
And this would obviously be fairly far down the road for this section because this is private property. This is, people live here right now.
Yeah.
There's private property and businesses.
And businesses,
Better.
yeah.
Okay, so this is a down the road sort of
Yeah.
And
proposal. Okay.
Yep. And part of that
we already
is,
have the depot grounds for a lot of the proposed things.
But I do like the narrowing of the street quite a bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and it
Okay.
could be more riverfront focused events rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Yep.
other city village events that you have.
just a quick note too, on letter F, that is actually downtown Batavia. Downtown Batavia has converted that street as of, over the last several months into a one-way southbound. So it's, and so the cross street there, which you can't see, but that's facing north on whatever street that is. But east-west is their main street. So that is now a one-way street. So that's certainly a possibility for Water Street if we want to
yeah.
reduce that down to a one-way at some point.
We'd have a lot of other intersections in town that need some improvements before we can limit people's exit there.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, yay, but.
Yeah, and again, it's a long-range plan, so
Yeah.
obviously when we get to prioritize, we'll talk about the things that we think are more recent potential opportunities.
Sorry, thank you, yes.
And then we move down to the Hager property. So we know that obviously the vision for this property is to acquire the land that's here and adjacent to it for future redevelopment. So we've kind of vaguely shown what the redevelopment area box, would be, but the main intent with this plan is to really connect the open land space that would be part of the redevelopment with the land adjacent to the river. So in this concept, we would be rerouting, again, River Street, or just blocking off River Street when it gets to Maiden, and force most of the traffic going north-south to the primary thoroughfare of Van Buren. So that's where you would enter, and so before, you would come in and you would have to take a 90 and then another 90 going north. But in this opportunity, we're going to be curving the road so that way you would not have to do the 90 and the 90. And so that could take on more traffic because we are kind of smoothing out that roadway and not requiring multiple stops to go north. To give us that opportunity here to make this nice connection all the way to the river with the open space, rather than segmenting it with having a river or the river street continue through the development area.
Can you draw with your cursor where you envision the bike path?
Yeah, so the bike path comes down here now. So in this scenario, we would do some opportunities for like a shared lane for the bike and pedestrians, but also have it be separate. So we would kind of bring it through, maybe go through closer to the water and then come back down where it connects in. So we still want to have it be something clearly different than most of our other pathways, so that way we know that you're approaching it, it is bike, because people do go fast. That's the intent on the bike lane, to not have any intersections of pedestrians and bikes within the open space. There's also the opportunity to bring it this way around. Then they wouldn't have the opportunity of the bikers to be able to get close to the riverfront. But we could then encourage, if people want to experience the riverfront, that we don't bring bikes into this space. So there's a few different options of how you'd want to handle like the bike lane through the open space.
Just a quick note too, we're approximately where letter E is, right, kind of, there's an E down at the bottom too, but the upper E, approximately at that point is where the Fox River Trail transitions from our ownership and responsibility to the Forest River. So we would work with them south to reconfigure.
So from E, the top E, south, we need to
Get permission.
coordinate and get permission to reroute what the existing. Okay.
Yes. There's a little sign there now that says, delineates our responsibility versus theirs along the bike path. And it's approximately where that upper E is, yes.
Would it make sense for East Dundee to work with the bike path folks for East Dundee to now have ownership of the
Yeah.
bring it down further. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think the Forest Preserve District would be, I don't want to speak for them, of course, but I think that they would be fine with it if we took ownership and
Yeah.
maintenance responsibility
Right.
and so on and so forth. Yes, I think.
It would
they
make more sense almost.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would support it.
And I would probably say for the bike path, to prioritize keeping the bike separate from the pedestrian areas and not worry as much about giving them a good view. I go through there all the time commuting, and most people commuting don't want to be in the way of people walking, so I think giving some route that's more like a highway off to the side is probably preferable.
Should probably at least allow for like bike racks or something parking on either side,
Yeah.
you know? So if you're biking to this area, you know, you don't necessarily want people to bike through it, but bike to it, leave your bike, walk around,
Here,
have all the fun things.
Yeah, park and go hang out
provided a
there.
beautiful bike rack.
Right, exactly.
You probably also want to consider some type of, when you use the term traffic calming, because of these electric bikes, now some people
Yes.
they move pretty quickly, and obviously if this is a park environment, you have a lot of children and walkers, and they're not really fast-moving pedestrians, so we
Right.
want to make sure that fast movers on the electric bikes and the other avid cyclists are kind of like their lane to pass through this
Yeah,
area.
or pass around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think as much as you can push them to the outskirts on the outside, the better. I don't think the cyclists will mind. I think they prefer that to being intertwined. Like most cyclists will skip our whole downtown and just take Water Street currently. If they're going through like a 10-mile ride somewhere, just because there's so many people walking in the downtown. So
Algonquin's done a really good job of separating that. If you take a look at what they've done on the bike path when you get north to 31, the crossing of 31, and then further at, I guess it would be 62, they've diverted bike path, and they've got a repair station, there's a pump, there's the bike racks and stuff like that, and then public restrooms. So it's been really good for them. discussed that whole thing with the mayor of Algonquin, and they love it up there, and really, they really did a nice job.
Yeah, that's what we have at the depot.
What's that?
That's what we have at the depot. We have a bike
Right,
repair station. and all
Yes,
that.
exactly, yeah. But theirs is, of course, a little more involved, but yeah, it's nice, real nice.
And the other things that proposed would be a pedestrian bridge crossing here that would connect, there's a park on the west side of the river here that it would tie into nicely.
Which park? Because there's another bridge for South End Park.
Yeah, this is about halfway between Main Street and that South Bridge crossing. So
There's
this
a
is like a
little park.
midpoint
Oh, it's a
crossing.
little baby.
They got the
It's a little
concrete
park.
like bags thing built in,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
little
okay.
park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like trying to envision what's
It's
on the
really
other side
small,
of the
kind
river.
of tucked
Really
away in a
little.
residential
Okay.
spot.
It's like two concrete bag things. Okay.
Actual size.
It connects South End, doesn't it? South End Park?
No, it's before
The
that.
ones down.
Smaller,
It's
the
in
one
between
between 72 and South End.
The one closer to the Culver's Garage, that
Yeah.
bridge doesn't connect.
That one connects, okay.
And that bridge, is my understanding, is owned by the village of West Dundee, owned and maintained.
Oh, it is, oh, okay, Williams County, all right.
And the other key amenity would be the accessible kayak and canoe launch. In our conversations with Carpentersville, just north of our area, they're going to be putting in a new accessible launch. And so we heard a lot of feedback though about having an accessible launch, so we wanted to space this one out a little bit further. So they'll have one north of Maine, and then this would be the one south of Maine. If you wanted to do that stretch, portage in, portage out, you would have an accessible launch area.
And their plan is continued, I met with the President Skillman on that, and they're moving forward with that,
Yeah.
so.
And I'm sorry, where is that on here?
It's just south of E. It's
Okay,
a little
so
bit
it's-
cut off.
it's off.
And
Okay.
it's not
It's off the
showing.
map.
But there's that section here that has the plumbing.
Okay.
Yeah, Lifeline plumbing.
Got
Okay.
it.
And so the potential would be to relocate that business to the business park and then have that opportunity to connect into the bike trail
Got it.
here and then have a launch. Right. Any overall questions on the main plan? And I'll go through the community feedback from the event.
So obviously some of these are big ideas, some of
Yes.
these are small ideas.
Yes.
So, one question I had, so completely agree about the launch points. We've got one to the north, we'll have one at the south.
Mhm.
Those are some pretty nice places to have launch points. What about a thought of having a tie-up? So
Yeah.
you want to get out like at
Rosie's.
at Rosie's or at the park, or especially if we make the decision to move the park to the river. So you just want to get out, go have fun at the park, get back in. It's
Mhm.
not a launch point. It's not take your kayak out. It's pretty much if you're doing that from the north to the south, you can
Right,
tie
you could
off.
get out and lock it.
Right.
And time up.
I mean, I know that I can't remember where I read about this, but there are some folks who actually have like in water, like almost like buoys sticking up with like locks that you can just click a kayak into or something like that and then
Nice.
walk out and wade out.
Okay.
So I know some folks who come from Algonquin and want to stop at Rosie's for a drink before they keep going, so.
Right.
So that would probably require a staircase as well. Is that so,
That's-
Army Corps permission to do? If you alter at all the river line, I know.
Yeah, you'd have to
that point
permit.
in,
Yeah.
You gotta get there okay, but for the land itself?
Yeah, as long as we're not net filling the
Okay.
area. So we'd have to regrade the banks in order to get like some sort of accessible, or if you wanted to consider like limestone outcroppings, that would
Yeah.
not be accessible. But we wouldn't have the launch accessible
Right.
anyway. So maybe we just consider doing limestone outcroppings so that way you could pull it
Yeah.
up and then have opportunities to
Yeah.
tie up or lock out.
I mean, that's just where I was thinking is a little intermediate, you know, coming from Algonquin and want to grab a beer, coming from Carpentersville and want to stop at the park. I don't know why you'd kayak from Carpentersville to the park, but
Why
hey.
Yeah,
'Cause you
definitely
can.
like
'Cause you
in this
can.
area, obviously with the multi-use development, that would be
Yeah.
a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, not a full launch, just, you know, something easier than that.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, did you have a quick comment?
Well, I would only consider, and I'm sure they have, with the new placement of the trail near the Hager property, and and the river, is there any problem of flooding, having the trail be positioned closer to the river? That area floods quite a lot. Is there any concern there?
Right. So there would be, obviously, anything that we end up putting in the water, the area that would be floodplain or floodway, especially if we're talking up here by Triangle Park. Like, the intent of this section would be to try to get down closer to the water for people to actually be able to engage with the water, touch the water, see the water, hear the water. But in doing so, that means it will flood at some point in time. And so anytime we do that, we do want to make sure we have an opportunity for a high path that would then, in an event of flooding, which would happen, we would have a pathway that they could go on that would not be flooded, that would be higher in elevation. So same with the Hager property. If we did something like closer down to the water's edge, there would still be high paths that you could take in the event that that would happen. And it would all be built, I would say anything that would flood would be built of like concrete or anything that could withstand the flooding.
Yeah. Right now, the banks on the north side they're so high up, you don't get water to the street.
Right.
There. But you'd only get water if you're purposefully allowing people to get to the water on that area. So that does make sense. We just don't. West Dundee's done a pretty good job where everything that they have that can floods well. You know, it's fine. But it is also a little frustrating that when the river's high on that side of the river, there is actually no upper path. You have to walk on the street. And that's definitely something I'd want to avoid is, like you said, having upper paths so that you're not forced to walk on the street instead.
Right. And then this parcel does have some natural stream connections that we want to be able to highlight and showcase in that section as well.
Okay. And can I just make one very random comment?
Yeah.
For the Bartles Park,
Yeah.
you're going to have to leave that basketball court. It gets used every single day in the dead of winter. Unless it's snowed on, it gets used all the time. So
Right.
we'll have to provide something like that.
But we could make it nicer.
We could make a nice basketball.
Nicer
That would be
costume.
that would be well loved.
Yeah, and I think there's also a larger park, Max Freeman Park, close
Yeah.
by as another opportunity as well. If we wanted to focus more on passive opportunities
Right.
here.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's all,
That's absolutely fair. I
We
just
don't own that.
right.
Right.
Correct. Yes.
But
Yeah.
we would like to.
yes. Sorry, had to throw that out there.
Did you have a quick comment?
Down by Hager. It was, I didn't get to go to the meeting, but you see how you're moving that urine? I live in the reserves,
Mhm.
and coming down Williams Place, it almost seems like you're gonna close that, you don't show that road, as long as I can get down to.
It's there because my driveway's on Williams,
Didn't-
but I see
didn't-
it. It's definitely
You're not
there.
closing off your driveway.
It's really hard already with the traffic zooming through there, that we have to stop to get out, so.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is the angle, the right angle at the stop there. that
Right
you
there,
mentioned.
yeah.
That just goes straight through into your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't change.
It's just not shown, but it would.
We would still make sure that that's a connection.
I
Yeah.
do not want to go out 72.
No.
All right.
Can I ask the size of the polling that we took, if you will, the people that participated in the survey?
Yeah, the initial survey. So the initial online survey had 314 respondents.
Okay.
That was back in.
That was May.
May.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we did stakeholder interviews. And then recently, let me go back up to the feedback up here.
Online survey, there were 69, responses.
Okay.
The online survey. And then 30-ish, 40-ish.
Attendees,
attended
yeah.
the open house.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right, so this chart summarizes the feedback in combination of the online survey, which is in like the orangish color, and then the in-person respondents, which is in the blue color. So we asked the exact same questions when we posted online versus those that were in person. And so we totaled them together here in a chart so you could obviously see Obviously, we had way more respondents online than in person, but overall reflected the same top priorities as the river walk. So the walk, having a walking path along the river itself was the highest preferred amenity, followed by native landscaping, festival, street, seating, and then restrooms. And then those, which very much closely aligned with the feedback that we had before we actually started with the plan. It was, native and ornamental landscaping, beautification, seating, walking, restroom, parking. So with that, we move into prioritize, which is taking a first stab at, what amenities in the plan should we prioritize for the next 5 years. So we did a quick prioritization as far as what things could be implemented relatively quickly versus things like Hager property that might take a little bit longer time to acquire, plan, design, construct, grant opportunities, etc. So doesn't mean that we're not working on those within the priority one. It's just when we map it all out, the time frame that it takes to implement that is going to be a little bit longer, but we're going to still be working on those small chunks of actions that we need in order to get to that end frame in if it's 10 years. We should be doing actions kind of at the beginning as well to set us up for that construction that might happen 10 years out. And then we have things that are ongoing initiatives that will happen every year. So obviously consider shoreline restoration and enhancement opportunities, consider removal of invasive vegetation, install native plantings, consider property acquisition and development, and consider grant opportunities for the various projects. So that could be FEMA hazard mitigation assistance for properties in floodway and floodplain. LWCF can fund land acquisition for recreation specifically. Open space, land acquisition development funds recreation development, which can be trails, it can be obviously basketball courts and that type of things as well. But it's also, wildlife observation areas, interpretive signage. It can fund all of those types of improvements. And then we have regional trail programs. So again, that can help fund just the riverfront trail from the north to the south. Tourism grants, block grants. So all of those can also help when there's potential, development opportunities out of it, other than, recreation development. And then the second priority, first priority would be Williams Bartels Park. So that could be something that we consider for an OSLAD grant, where we could fund the development of those improvements. That would be a 50-50 matching grant opportunity up to $600,000 from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. So that's something, because you own the property, that would be available for you to act on somewhat relatively quickly compared to other priorities. Yeah.
That's a township park.
No, actually, it's ours.
We own
We do?
it.
Yeah.
They
They maintain it. Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure because there's a big old township sign on
Right.
it, so.
One of the, can I
Yeah.
add something with you? One of the things that we talked about for priority one was in 2024, we could begin some of the actual infrastructure improvements. So we would essentially close down Water Street, extend, so we would but essentially sod and seed Water Street between Barrington and Second, extend the park, and then during the course of 2024, apply for an OSLAD grant. And if we're successful in that effort, we would receive the funds for 2025, which would then equate to funding some recreation pathways and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a two-phase project. If
Yeah. I'm
you all support that.
just a little nervous about it if we do that before we start doing the traffic reducing measures on water. Because you're going to be flowing a whole bunch of if we're not already putting other speed reduction methods in place and things like that, it's going to be a lot of traffic routing around that park. And that's,
Around the park?
yeah,
I would think that most people would just go to Barrington to downtown to, get on 72 that way, wouldn't they? Or?
what if you're coming off of 72 and you want to go to Carpentersville?
And you just
I
have to
would
go
turn
around.
right at
Right.
downtown and then go to Barrington
Again, that's where those other intersections, where the Van Buren intersection and the River Street intersections, they're not, like, you can't take a right-hand turn on red on Van Buren to get into the downtown area. That's why so many people actually use that fairly unsafe Water Street intersection to get that way.
Yeah.
So that's my only, I love this, do not get me wrong, I absolutely love this, but I am concerned, like, that's rerouting traffic around something without other measures in place to solve the problems we will be causing. And that's what I'm gonna always be worried about.
That little road that you have to use to get from Barrington back to Water Street is a very, very narrow road already that almost always has cars parked on it for some reason.
Barrington to Water?
Well, the little hook that you would take to get
Oh yeah, the
around
little baby
park.
road? The little baby road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very narrow road already that is usually has
It's
cars
got
parked on it for
parked
people
cars
going
on
out
it
to the
too.
park or whatnot.
Yeah.
I would think that already is a traffic calming feature.
That in itself would be, yes,
Yeah.
essentially.
And plus you'd have to make that turn. And,
Yeah, I just, I'm always gonna be a little bit worried about causing problems that we haven't thought about and solve for first.
Yeah.
And one of the things that as you may recall, several meetings ago, we discussed the proposed truck route on Barrington, and Water is included in the discussion. We're going to be working to kind of finalize a recommendation for you all at some point here very soon, and this will be a part of that discussion as well.
Okay.
So it's all part of it.
It's all kind of tying it together,
What town hall falls first, but
right?
at some point,
Yeah. And I want that Van Buren domino to fall at some point. We need that intersection. It will help with the amount of traffic that goes onto Water off of 72. If the majority of people coming from out of town feel confident using Van Buren, just there's a right-hand turn, they can get in and cut through downtown. It's a safer intersection then.
Much safer.
But I mean, I don't love the Water Street intersection. It's dangerous, it's scary, it's not great, but right now it's the one that most people use, so.
Just going back to an issue with that intersection that we ran into with a previous suggestion and development, was that it is the only way to get back north into East Dundee after you drive out of the drive-through at
Yes.
Dairy Queen.
Yes, it
And
is.
otherwise, this was a big deal. Yeah, you weren't here for it, but trust me. So otherwise, you'd have to go all the way to West Dundee to be able to.
To cross the river to go.
Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
Fair. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm digressing some, but I want to make sure that we're thinking about the consequences of our decisions and at least have some sort of plan for them and, just not saying, yeah, let's do this thing, let's close off this road and forget about the houses all around it. And we already have a traffic speed problem down that street and all that, so.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe a question for Public Works or Engineering, but what is Water Street at Rosie's, say? How wide are those lanes right now, do we know?
I would say they're probably 15 feet wide.
Okay, so we're talking 3 feet per lane that we're reducing. Just
Yes.
curious.
Yeah, a lot of the feedback was just this section here of people didn't feel safe
Right.
walking because the path is right up next to Water Street and it is such a wide lane area that anything that we can reduce it would give us that extra buffer between the sidewalk and the road to give people that confidence and safety. In addition to like the speed tables and crossings, that would also slow down the traffic in addition to that, which would probably help if we're putting a crossing right at this establishment. That would probably encourage people to cross there and see them or slow down and see that business also.
And it probably is not necessarily worth mentioning, but since we're a town of very limited means, I want to keep an eye towards reducing the amount of rework, since this is gonna be a phased-in type of approach, north to
Right.
south. If we start taking on a big chunk of it, incorporating the second piece, I would wanna make sure that we don't end up having to rework stuff
Yeah.
that we've already done, because that gets expensive, so.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
Any other questions? Otherwise, that was the end.
And we got a lot of
Presentation.
potential on that river, we really do. It's, we really appreciate all the work. So, does anybody else have any comments, questions? No?
Just one clarifying question. So priority 2, the reason we want to start with that is by setting up that park, we can apply for grants that while we do the north part, those will come back, and then we're kind of starting north to south, but starting that first helps get the grants.
Yeah, because the grant won't fund a lot of infrastructure costs. It will fund some amount of infrastructure, but the cost to like take out a roadway, you're probably best to do that separately or in advance of it, so that way the grant, it's only $600,000 plus $600,000 match. Like for recreation purposes, that goes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So as much as, and obviously the more you can show of that money going towards recreation, the higher your grant application will be scored. So we try to want to limit as much infrastructure costs from the grant that's not purely recreation. And so that would be something that maybe could be implemented beforehand, so that way we're just primarily coming in and doing the pathways and doing some minor regrading of vegetation and adding those recreation components.
So would that TAG or OSLED grants, would any of those could any of those be applied to acquisition costs?
For acquisition, IDNR has the LWCF.
That's the only one?
Yep,
Okay.
that they would help pay for the land acquisition funds. And then OSLED is the same kind of arm, IDNR, but they also fund acquisition, but they try to funnel all of their development through that one and try to funnel all their acquisition through LWCF.
And all of those have a reimbursement feature to them, whereas if we pick up the cost ahead of time, the grant is trailing, we could still be awarded it, correct?
Yeah, they don't want you to spend development funds in advance of being awarded the grant. You can do planning in advance. So if you wanted to do like the
Well, then
first
you're at the
phase of
mercy of that
engineering and that type
grant
of
then.
thing, yeah, that usually helps. But they don't want you to spend any of the development construction dollars in advance of them giving you the money.
Okay.
But they usually give you half up front once they award it. You can get half up front and then half at the end, if that's what you prefer.
But we could be handcuffed as far as progress until we know we're getting a grant. If we're ready to roll, and we don't know if we're gonna get the money, we might end up sitting on our hands for a year or two. Who knows?
Yeah, so as part of the grant application, if we were going to submit, it's typically around June to September timeline. It hasn't been on a very consistent cycle the last few years past COVID. But usually around June, September, they'll open it up. And as part of that, you develop a more site-specific, we can use this in all of the community engagement that we've done so far for that grant application. They do like to see you host one community open house specific to this grant project. And so that could be in advance of a board meeting, just have an open comment period or open forum for people to be able to comment on it. And that would kind of give you that specific community engagement specific to this project. And then you would pass the resolution, basically saying that if awarded, you have the funds and are able to implement the project.
So we'd find out pretty quickly if we got it for that year, and if not, then we could move to priority 2 and come back to priority 1.
Yes, because they typically award, like, if we submit it in June, September, they award typically in January. They'll let you know. Then it takes them a while to execute contracts, but you could get started once you've kind of been noticed that you've awarded the project. You've been awarded the project.
And then if you don't get it, you could still apply the next
You
year.
could apply the
and
next year.
Keep trying to get it.
Yep.
What Lacey hasn't mentioned is that her firm has 97% success rate with these grants, which is pretty spectacular.
Yep. I forget the millions of dollars that we're at now. But should be hearing on the, what?
It's more than one, it's a.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, more than one. I think, yeah, last cycle was 22 awarded grants.
That's great.
That's great, yeah.
There's a lot of things that can be done here now.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, well, we're gonna move on here. It's, clock is ticking, so let's go to item D if we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance adopting the 2024 fiscal year budget.
Second.
Okay, do we have questions? We've all had the opportunity to take a look at the budget, ask the questions. We had the public hearing. Anybody have anything? Friends?
You
Do you have any,
anything? Are you just there for us?
I did want to point out, as noted in the memo that's attached to the budget, that we did make some changes. You will see the final review of the revenue projection for 2023 stub year budget. We are projecting about $100,000 surplus in revenues compared to what we budgeted for. And we did add in a project for 304 Hill and 309 Jackson for the purchase of that property for $378,000, and that will be in the downtown TIF. We did reduce the depot, or I'm sorry, we did add a revenue line item for the depot council for $10,000, and we reduced the allocation originally budgeted for the arts council from $50,000 to $40,000, and then we did remove the interior painting of the well number 3 in the water sewer fund. That was $11,000 to perform that duty in-house. So those were some of the changes that were made since the last discussion.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brandis, for all your
I'll
hard
just
work
stay
on
here
this.
until I have the next slide.
Also, Brandis, I noticed, somebody told me that the banana pudding in the break room was
Yes.
brought in by you.
Thank
I just
you.
want to put into the public record that that was very, very.
Official
good.
agenda
Thank
item.
you.
I'll second that.
Okay. Anything else? Questions? No? Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Okay. Then that'll take us to item E if we could have a motion.
I will move to approve an ordinance for a levy and assessment of taxes for the stub year beginning May 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023 for the village of East Dundee.
Second.
Is this just pizza on that? Well, it's okay. Any questions?
Mm-mm.
No? This is just pizza?
You got anything
Okay.
for us, or just making sure? Okay.
Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Okay. That'll take us to item F if we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the village administrator to enter into an engineering services agreement with Gerald L. Hines and Associates for the 2024 street improvement program in the amount not to exceed $58,500.
Second.
Questions? Why the need for the increase? Just curious. Was it 50 and then we went to 58.5?
The original project was for a $500,000 project, and there was a separate line item for Lakewood streets that was possibly going to go with an agreement with Seaville because they're going to do 50/50 share in Oak Ridge. So Bill thought that they might be able to do Hawthorne and the extension of Oak Ridge under that contract. But after talking, we decided to just keep that one section that's in Seaville 50/50, so we pulled out the Lakewood line and to this project.
So they're not going to pick up half that cost?
They are.
They are.
Or
Okay.
just Oak Ridge.
Just Oak Ridge. Okay.
Just the northern, well, that straight section on the map. So the Hawthorne and then that southern leg of Oak Ridge
is us.
We contemplated, kind of back and forth, do we ask, because they're contiguous with the street that Carpentersville is incorporating in their street improvement project, we thought that if they had good unit prices, would they extend that to us and just pave it all because they're contiguous? We could still consider that as an option if,
Doesn't Oak Ridge dead end? It does. Yeah, I thought so.
into ravine.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that north-south segment and then a little curved portion. So the curved portion is.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions? Comments? Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is never not going to be funny tonight.
It's almost over, though. So we'll go with item G now, if we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution waiving competitive bidding and approving the purchase of a new public works vehicle from Castle Motors of McHenry.
Second.
Is the only reason why we're waiving competitive bidding is because of timing? Lead time on the ordering? I mean, I don't know why we would not look for the best deal we can get here. So waiving the competitive bidding doesn't make sense to me.
Essentially, yes, to answer your question. We did look at pricing that has been published by the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative.
Also, too, a question would be, can our enterprise agreement get in on this?
This truck might be more suited for, if we were to incorporate enterprise into our public works program, this might be a vehicle that could, because it's a fairly straightforward use, it's not equipped with much. So this could be a vehicle that we could explore with enterprise. I did not, or we did not, but.
That was always the goal, right? Was to bring public works into the enterprise program?
I think it's well suited for, in our situation, for on a police side, because their vehicles are equipped similarly and their use is very similar. Whereas our vehicles, we have such a broad range of equipment and trucks and vehicles that it's not as cut and dry and straightforward. I think on some of our simpler trucks that aren't equipped with plows and spreaders and of that sort, those trucks may not be as, in my opinion, as well suited for the enterprise program.
Okay, well, I mean, a lot of that stuff is all add-on anyway, isn't it? I mean, when we're talking about pickup trucks, man, it's pretty utilitarian. I mean, you can add on the tow package, you can add on the spreader, you can add on the plow, the hitch, all of that.
Yeah.
So
correct.
it seems to me that getting the vehicle in and then equipping it later on would be something we could do and still take advantage of enterprise's pricing.
Typically, with those trucks, we do it all at the same time. For some of our larger dump trucks, we include the towing and the plows and the salt spreading and.
Imagine you get better discounted by bundling it all.
Yes, than if we went out kind of a la carte that unit, those units.
And not taking it offline to add on the other.
Correct.
And this looks like it's about $120 over the budgeted amount.
115 and change over what we budgeted
Okay.
for this particular unit.
$15. I have a question. Why is this truck in the other agenda items and the backhoe is in the consent agenda? Just out of curiosity.
Because of the waiving of the competitive bidding.
I see.
This because we're waiving bids, it requires a minimum of 4 trustees to vote in favor of this
Yeah.
purchase. And what I was going to also mention on.
Well, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
If we vote all yes on the consent agenda, doesn't that also count as that same thing? Okay. Just checking.
No, I was just going to add one on this. We did compare pricing that was published through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative, and we felt that with the discounts that are applied to this particular truck, they're comparable to what we would get through the SPC on a similarly spec'd truck. And the other thing too that I mentioned in my memo is ideally we'd like to take the truck that our superintendent has been driving and transfer that to operations ahead of the coming winter, so we have another plowing vehicle in our fleet, more of a pickup truck style.
Mhm.
Those trucks are obviously better. We've talked about this in the past on our more narrow streets, cul-de-sacs, and, 4th Street, for example, in the downtown area.
Well, I guess I would approve this, but maybe, as the not to exceed amount, but maybe you just talk to them about reducing the price by $112. It's under budget. Do they know that they're over budget by $100? It's such a small amount.
Yeah. Not
That's
ultimately-
$100. That's
Any other questions, comments? Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter.
Yes. And that'll take us to item H, if we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the village administrator to enter into a professional services agreement with Baxter and Woodman Consulting Engineers for a water and sewer rate study in an amount not to exceed $40,500.
Second.
Questions? I've got one. Man, this seems like pure arithmetic to me. I don't understand why we can't, we know how much the system costs us. We know even more how much money we've got coming in from those user fees. Why do we need a consultant and pay them $40,000 to tell us the difference between the two? I struggled when we did it with Trotter 10 years ago. I didn't want to spend the money on that either because I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. We know how much we should charge over the next X amount of years to be able to get it fully funded through user fees by 2030. It's just math. It's not even math. It's arithmetic. Where am I going off the beam here, Phil?
Well, I think part of these types of studies, and they're actually recommended closer to every 5 year, at 5-year intervals, and we obviously are moving on close to 10 years, because I think capital changes over time, capital needs, operating expenses change, debt changes over time. So what they do is they build a financial model, and they look at not only what we're spending today on all of those different components, operating, capital, debt, and they build a financial model and say, okay, in the next 3 to 5 years, what you're anticipating spending, how does that affect what you're currently charging as your water and sewer rates? So we obviously have a water treatment plant and a wastewater treatment plant, and then our collection system on the sewer side, sanitary side, and we also have a water distribution system, and all of the lift stations and towers and standpipes and hydrants and valves. And so what it does is it builds a financial model to help us ensure that we're charging our community, our constituents, rates that help us pay for what our needs and that are as affordable to them as possible. So it looks at it from both perspectives.
Well, the fact that none of it is etched in stone, just all that really tells me is that we could build this into an Excel program and change it over time, add in a few variables and run the program, and you got what you need. And just, I don't know, I mean, unless that's what they're going to be building for us, and we'll have actually a program that we can use from now into the future to continue to apply and not have to pay for this again in 5 years.
What they're going to do is, and that's a great question, they're going to, again, build a financial model for us that we can kind of plug and play. So if we do another water tower that needs to be painted, we have some water main projects that are up and coming. The standpipe needs to be addressed at some point. It's aging. We have 2 wells that they don't regularly produce water into the system. They're there as an emergency backup, but those will need maintenance and service. We just received a proposal the other day to service our deep well at the water treatment plant. That's the well that was brought online 2 or 3 years ago. If there are issues with that at that point in time, that could be anywhere from $50,000 to $400,000. It's hard to know. So there's expenses that will be coming to us down the road that this financial model will help us incorporate into our rate structure going forward.
Yeah, no, I understand it. I do. I mean, I get that we need to know what these all the variables of the system are.
Yeah.
It just seems that once we gather them, and a lot of them we already have, so we're gonna be supplying these people with this information, and I'm just kinda curious what we're gonna end up getting. Are we gonna get a paper report that says, hey, you're in good shape, or you're a mess? Or are they gonna actually give us some sort of computer program that we can use to monitor this? You know, I mean, what are we getting for our money?
I don't think they're gonna tell us we're a mess. I think they may say that we're in,
So either.
I think overall, pretty good shape. Of course, the rate study that was done 10 years ago by Trotter and Associates, it's outdated, and certainly this will update that, so to speak, or just essentially create a new study. Now,
And the other thing is
If you
that
do
we-
read the
sorry.
Baxter and Woodman proposal, they do have a line item in here for provide training via virtual meeting to village staff on the Excel-based financial model for future use. So apparently they are doing exactly what you're.
Well, they're gonna use that to give us the answers and to tell us the condition of East Dundee and their water program. But
Yes.
are we going to have ownership of a program that they create? That we
Yes.
can actually have in our systems that we can refer to at any time?
yes, yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And I'm offering my perspective from the world of public works, finance, and they may have a different, I don't know, Brandis, if you have you know, anything from the financial side of the world of government finance, but I know that it's usually kind of a joint effort between the two functions of local government as these rate studies go. So they take a look at a lot of things from both sides of public works and the world of finance.
All righty. Does anybody else have anything? No? Catherine?
Trustee
Thanks,
Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter.
Yes.
Okay. That'll take us to item I, if we can have a motion.
I will move to approve a resolution authorizing the village administrator to waive competitive bidding and enter into agreements with various subcontractors to perform bathroom renovation work at the depot in an amount not to exceed $120,000.
Second.
Can you run us through real quick what this will entail?
Sure. So we've been talking about renovating the restrooms at the depot for some time, and we got some pretty expensive quotes early on, so we weren't able to complete the work as we had hoped to in the fall of this year. So this was a creative solution that Phil and Chris came up with, where we have gotten what we think to be pretty competitive pricing from various subcontractors, and then we will manage the project in-house. But the best part of this project is that there will be ADA compliant restrooms at one of our most used facilities in town, to include also a companion care restroom inside the facility, as well as the current male and female restrooms being renovated.
Awesome.
Okay. So in total, it won't exceed 120
I
for
think
the
there's,
whole project?
the whole breakdown's in the packet.
No, I saw that. I'm just,
Yeah, the price is not to
Reiterate.
exceed $120,000.
any questions? Catherine?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
Did he say that? Oh, and Trustee Sauter.
Yes.
Okay, and then last but not least, item J.
I'll make a
Could I have
motion to approve a resolution approving a contract agreement between the Village of East Dundee and University of Northern Illinois Center for Governmental Studies for the strategic and comprehensive planning and goal identification. Yay. I'm sorry, that last.
Also yay.
Any questions?
I just wanted to mention while we have this on the agenda that we're planning to do a joint session of the village board and the planning and zoning commission, hopefully in January, to talk about this project and sort of kick it off. So I'll be running some dates past all of you to see if we can accommodate that.
Awesome.
Great.
So can I ask, we've had a number of, every 4 to 5 years, whatever it was, we've had revisions amendments, changes to the comp plan that we actually put together. I want to say it was back in '02, '05, somewhere around there. Is what we're talking about just updating what we currently have, or are we scrapping and starting from scratch?
Franco.
Ground up.
So we're gonna just eliminate, okay, because I would like, I mean, if we could, we have that current comp plan available, because it'll be interesting to see what we have and then what we end up with. You know? And so, I mean, I'm sure that the current comp plan that we have is gonna be, to a large extent, a starting point, but I just don't want to see a lot of regurgitation of what we already have on online, what we already have available.
Well,
So-
there's going to be new fact-finding, economic changes, community input, and other data that's updated since '02 that's going to be incorporated.
And most notably, the Riverfront Master Plan will inform a large portion of the new comp plan, because we've spent so much effort already to
We'll tie in.
look at that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So much has changed in
Yeah.
the last 22 years.
20 years,
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Within what's going on in the village, personal properties and
Mhm.
business properties and the goals and the vision. The vision is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
That's true. Yes.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? No? Kathy?
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Trustee Britton?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Triber?
Yes.
And Trustee Sauter?
Yes. Okay, that'll take us to reports. I'll just start out by saying I appreciate everybody holding down the fort for the 2 meetings I was out. Didn't anticipate the second one, it just kind of happened. Also to the Dickens in Dundee was, from what I understand, well attended. And the downtown looks great, so hats off to Public Works and everybody in administration that brought that about. And so, yeah, just appreciate it, and it's good to be back. So, and well, congratulations to the new changes for the Chief's department. And that's about all I got, so we'll go around the room. Andy?
Quick Arts Council update. We're calling for all artists, local artists, to submit work. The Black and White Art Show will be at Black and Gray Brewing February 20th? 10th? Just kidding. Yeah, the submission deadline is January 20th. And any black and white artwork with optionally an accent of red is the theme. So we already have a bunch of submissions. We're putting out a lot of marketing, so tell any artist in the area to join.
Great.
So Saturday, I went to the Dundee Township Cemetery for Wreaths Across America and put the wreaths on veteran graves. It was True Patriots Care did it. It's their first year doing it, so it was very well attended for their first year. And so it looks like something that's going to be continued, and I like that it's local. But always one of my most favorite, passionate, rewarding things to do. So it was great.
Great. Trustee Triber?
I know you can hear me, but you can't see me.
Well, you have to speak up for us.
For sure. Well, no report, but happy holidays, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Trustee Kunze?
No report.
Erica?
I just wanted to say a big thank you to Public Works and to Catherine and to all of the village staff who helped with Dickens and Dundee and the entire event season. Always hit it out of the park, and this year was exceptional. Super happy and proud of the team, and it actually takes an extraordinary amount of effort behind the scenes, but it all flows seamlessly on the day of. But that's not because there wasn't a whole lot of work put into it beforehand, and the preparation is key, and the planning and the coordination, and I appreciate the efforts of everyone involved, so thank you.
Trustee Mahoney?
Second one, Erica said, I want to thank Franco for getting, and whoever else was involved in getting the Depot Council's webpage up on our website. That is now live. And so there are going to be some community member participation to be on the council. I believe there are 5 members, right, Franco?
2 and 3.
Yeah. Oh, three community.
3 from the public, 2
Right.
trustees.
Okay.
So 3 community, we were looking for at least, hopefully more than that, so we have some choices and options, but 3 people from the community that want to participate in the planning of events and staffing of the depot, and taking kind of ownership of, or responsibility of that now that it's under the purview of the village itself and the board. So that's up there, and then I believe we will be posting for the other part-time position in January for managing the depot activities. Then I think it was this last Saturday, I was down at the Walmart running some errands, and it was also Shop with a Cop Day and Toys for Tots Day at the Walmart up in Carpentersville, and it was just really fun and awesome to see all the people that were involved there. I want to thank Jessica for her participation and her leadership in that group and getting such an amazing event together. There were a lot of people involved, as well as Officer, I'm going to pronounce his Maculitis, and Andy Ritter were there, and Barb, our records clerk, was there. So it was really, really cool. 128 kids and 50 families were participating, and it was fun to see the excitement, and the people at Walmart were working their tails off trying to keep everybody happy. So congratulations to Sergeant Marino, as well as Assistant Chief Ritter on their promotions. And I want to congratulate Erica for leading the sale and the treacherous waters of getting to the closing for 110 Railroad Street last Friday. So
I was going to mention that in my report, and I totally forgot.
It was an epic journey. It was. The Odyssey, you know.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that. Happy holidays to everybody. Wish everybody a wonderful season and a happy new year.
Great. Trustee Gray.
I get to be the bummer. We are still having some issues with our Planning and Zoning Commission attendance. I would like to make it abundantly clear, and if we need to ask staff to do so, or if the board needs to write a consensus letter to make it abundantly clear that participation in this is actually required every time, unless there's an emergency. Like, we have a handful of folks. I think that in general, people only call off if they've got a sudden work thing or something like that, but we still have a few folks who just don't show up. So we need to, that has to stop, especially as we move into strat planning next year. We cannot afford this.
The delays, the meeting delays. And
We've canceled how many day of 3? Which is staff time, and which makes us look really, really bad to the people who are trying to come into our community and business owners in our community, and no more. No more, has to stop. So
I'll make some phone calls on this.
please.
And yeah, to that point, I think there were a couple of seats
If there are some
that need
that
to
are
be
expired, we'll
yeah.
we'll look at that too.
Either
Thank
re-up
you.
the people that are really participating and adding to it.
And I get vacations. Like, I get a vacation or a work thing comes up, but there are a handful that just,
it's not.
Their attendance is once or twice a year instead of their absence is once or twice a year.
Good enough. Caitlin.
No report other than to wish everyone a happy holiday season and a wonderful new year.
Super. Okay. Brandis.
I got our police pension audit last week. So hopefully now we can wrap up the village's audit, hopefully this week, and then we'll be able to present sometime in January or February, depending on meeting schedule. And I want to thank Anna, their finance manager, for all of her help with our budget. So on to the million other things on our list. That's it.
Chief. We went live with our body cameras this last weekend, so if you see officers around town, you should see their acts on cameras. Law requires them to be on whenever we have contact with the public, whether it be call for service or even if we're just having a conversation that, laying back, if I'm having a conversation with my brain, my camera doesn't have to be on, but if for some reason I start talking police business or something becomes contentious, they have to turn their cameras on. So I wanted to have those, it was my goal to have those up and running before the new year, and we accomplished it, and happy for that.
Nice. Data storage isn't an issue with any of that?
I'm sorry?
Data storage on any of that
We're
footage?
good to go, it goes to the cloud, it's all through Axon. We're working on some kinks. Right now, there's an auto tagging feature that works for our dispatch center, where the guys don't have to categorize their calls, it's done automatically. We're going to do some kinks with that, but so far so good.
So an access isn't an issue, what about cost?
No, the cost was built into the contract.
Okay.
Other than that, that looks awesome.
There's a lot of potential, I'm looking forward to some of that.
Happy holidays.
Great.
Thanks, Chief.
Bill?
Just a quick follow-up on the gentleman who was here and had a unpleasant experience with the daily tree removal. I'll follow up with him
Thank you.
tomorrow and make sure that we correct the situation.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't aware of it, but
Okay.
make sure we address it.
Good enough. Awesome. Joe? Okay, great. Well, I think that takes us through everything. Are we meeting in executive session? No executive session, so I'll
like a
entertain a
Christmas
motion
gift.
to adjourn.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. See you in 2 weeks.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Check the week, another hour to